My Hero Academia is one of the most popular anime and manga nowadays. It is even considered one of the big three of modern anime. This time we will focus on My Hero Academia, talking about all the events related to the series, as well as theories and other things. As usual when explaining an Iceberg, we will start at level 1 where we will see the most known facts, and we will go down to level 5 where we will find the most disturbing things that exist. Level 1. My Hero Academia, Vigilantes is a spin-off manga and prequel to My Hero Academia. The story revolves around Koichi Himawari, who uses his gift to help people. After he and a girl are harassed by a group of bullies and saved by the vigilante Knuckle Duster, Koichi is recruited to become a vigilante. This manga has a more somber tone than the original manga. The plot presented reveals interesting facts with certain characters that appear or appeared in the original My Hero Academia manga. One example is that it is revealed that Stain was a vigilante, under the name Stendhal, only for a brief time before becoming the hero killer. It is also revealed why Aizawa decided to become a teacher at the UA. The manga was received with quite a positive reception, foretelling the story from another angle of view in the My Hero Academia universe. The Weekly Shonen Jump, from time to time, organizes popularity polls of its series in publication, where readers can vote for their favorite characters, and several issues later the top 10 are announced in color pages. In the case of My Hero Academia, it is organized annually during its anniversary. During the first poll, Deku topped the top, with Bakugo in second place. However, from the second poll, Bakugo would take the first place in the following editions without fail, while other characters such as Todoroki, Hawks, and Kirishima have remained in the top 10 consistently. It is important to say that these polls are conducted in Japan and not worldwide, otherwise, the top could change a bit. If you have seen My Hero Academia, you probably know Mineta, a character that is hated by most of the non-Japanese audience. The reason is very simple: the only trait he has as a character is being a pervert towards his classmates, which as you can imagine is not very well seen by most of the audience. The character has no development in terms of his motivations, which makes it more difficult to want to be a fan of Mineta. The reason for his behavior is that he is there to make the Japanese audience laugh, who have a very different humor than in the West. It is also worth mentioning that not all Japanese people like Mineta, as they also have their dislike for Mineta's actions, but it is more accepted there. My Hero Academia has seemingly made it clear since the very beginning of the series that Deku will become the #1 hero, but this might be wrong. In the manga's opening chapter, Deku says, "I forgot to mention this, but this is the story of how I became a great hero." The anime counterpart makes one subtle change. He says, "This is how I became the greatest hero." In the world of My Hero Academia, we can see that professional heroes are literally ranked, so Deku's goal is to be the #1 hero, just like All Might was. However, after recent events, this ranking may no longer exist, after the villain Dabi reveals the damning truth of many heroes. This negativity has continued to steadily rise since then, and recently reached a dramatic climax when an angry mob refused to allow Deku into UA High for protection. Many of the citizens began hiding at the school, when All For One escaped from prison. After learning that he's currently targeting Deku, they aren't willing to put their lives in risk by letting Deku shelter with them. As Deku falls and begins to cry, then two people he saved come rushing from the crowd to comfort him. It's during this moment when Deku revisits his earlier words, first saying, "This is the story of how I became the greatest hero," before continuing with, "and also the story of how we all became the greatest heroes." It's implied that Deku is telling a story about how he became the #1 hero. But in reality, it's clear the story is about how everyone, including citizens and actual heroes, rose to the challenges of evil and division. Level 2. One For All is a transferable quirk that can be passed on from one user to the next. Its name comes from its nature, being one quirk for all people. In order for the quirk to be transferred, the recipient must ingest a sample of the predecessor's DNA. The quirk factors of each of the previous users have merged with the core of One For All and have since increased in strength due to One For All's nature of stockpiling power. Izuku is the first user capable of accessing the quirks of the previous users. The quirks within One For All are the following. Gearshift, the quirk wielded by the second user. This quirk allows the user to alter the speed of anything they touch, allowing them to accelerate the force of a target, either by enhancing the impact force of their own strikes or by causing the target to lose control of their own velocity. Fajin, the quirk wielded by the third user. This quirk allows the user to build up and store kinetic energy as they move. This energy can then be released as an explosive burst of speed and power. Danger Sense, the quirk wielded by the fourth user. This quirk allows the user to detect nearby threats. Black Whip, the quirk wielded by the fifth user. This quirk allows the user to produce tendrils of dark energy which are useful for long-range grappling and increasing the user's mobility. Smokescreen, the quirk wielded by the sixth user. This quirk allows the user to generate thick clouds of smoke from their body, which can obscure people's vision. Float, the quirk wielded by the seventh user. This quirk allows the user to levitate. The first quirk in the world of My Hero Academy is a baby that had luminescence. Something as simple and absurd as that was what started a wave of powers in humanity. According to the series itself, most of the population has a quirk, however absurd it may be, and many people do not have one, as Midoriya is introduced at the beginning of the series. However, one theory states that everyone has a quirk. There are quirks so bizarre or ridiculous that they could go unnoticed by the user their entire life. It is also argued that there are quirks that are not necessarily tangible in some way but instead are mental. For example, Deku does have a quirk, which is his ability to never give up. Back in 2021, Kohei Horikoshi, the creator of the series, confirmed that he wanted to finish My Hero Academia in 1 year, with the idea of closing everything in 2022. However, the series is still continuing with its publication, and there still seems to be a lot of things left to tell. In the same 2021, Horikoshi also mentioned that the end of the series was practically finished, only the road to the expected ending was missing. After not having fulfilled his plans in 2022 and the delay that the series has had, he apologized to the readers. It is difficult to know for sure if this year will finally reach the conclusion of the story, because it is not easy to have an ending that pleases everyone, as has happened with many recent series, such as Tokyo Revengers, which had one of the most disappointing endings for fans. Tsubasa was a friend of Bakugo as a child, who helped him bully Izuku Midoriya for not having a quirk. He is also the grandson of Dr. Tsubasa, the doctor who diagnosed a young Izuku as quirkless, also the one who created the Nomus. There is a theory that one of the Nomus we can see in the Stain arc is Tsubasa, Bakugo's little friend. This Nomu specifically grabs Deku out of all those who were there. This theory is reinforced by an image that the creator himself made, a little after finishing the arc. In addition to the fact that we later learn that the Nomus are made from humans, to which more quirks are added to make them stronger, we can also add that the wings of the Nomu are similar to those of the child. Level 3. Kohei Horikoshi has always been someone quite reserved. It is well known that he is not a mangaka who is very active with his community. As a creator, he has the freedom to choose the fate of the characters as he sees fit. If he decides to kill a character, he is free to do so if it helps to develop the story. But as expected, this has a repercussion in the fandom, many times in a negative way, because they don't want their favorite character to die. This caused many posts with threats towards the creator to go viral, giving a bad image to his fans. Because of this, the fandom of My Hero Academy was very criticized for these actions. And although the truth is that some things were out of proportion, and were not as serious as they seemed, making this kind of comments towards the creator of the work you are reading is not very well seen by people. The first bearer of the One for All is Yoichi Shigaraki, who in turn is the brother of All for One. This is a theory that argues that Yoichi was born without any quirk, and in reality All for One gave him the quirk in order to have a rival worthy of his power. This explains the power that One for All has to replicate all the quirks of its former owners, because all this was planned by All for One. He has been waiting all these years for enough power to accumulate to face him. He has been waiting for someone capable of using those quirks to their full potential. This theory also mentions that Nana Shimura herself, the seventh carrier, had a dream where she met the previous carriers and was told, "It's not time yet," as a sign that she has been waiting for a carrier capable of mastering all the power. At the same time, All for One would also have given his quirk to Tamura, being responsible for the tragedy that turned him into a villain, all to be able to control his body, and to have a confrontation with Deku. All Might is a character that has certainly left his mark on the story of My Hero Academia. He is the most powerful superhero known in the universe. Night Eye is a character who has predicted All Might's death at the hands of a still unidentified villain, and in a very gruesome manner. Night Eye's predictions are not true in every case, but there are several pointers, which actually hint to All Might dying at one point in the series. All Might's health is failing, and whether Night Eye's prophecy comes true or not, he seems like he's on his way to permanent retirement. After all Might is still only a supporting character in the series for Deku. As for who will be responsible, it has been theorized that it could be Shigaraki, being the main enemy of Deku, causing anger in him to be able to face him. Another possibility is that he dies at the end of the series, once Deku is the great hero he wished to be, proud of having taught him everything he could, having a happier ending for the character. Level 4. Another conspiracy theory about the possibility that Monoma of Class 1B and Toga, a member of the League of Villains, are brothers. As we know, Monoma's quirk is to copy that other quirk as long as it has previously touched the user. He can use it in a limited time. Things we can guess about him is that he comes from a wealthy family, not only by his demeanor and way of despising certain people. We can also observe it in the hero outfit he wears, a gala-like suit. While we don't know much about Toga's history, during the arc of My Villain Academy we could see how he also seems to come from a wealthy family. That, added to his quirk, which is not only the imitation of a person, but of the quirk, due to the consumption of blood. Both characters have a similar appearance, and we have already seen, as in the case of the Todoroki, that the type of quirk can be a factor to consider between families. There can be two families, one where the quirks are derived from blood and another where the quirks are copies or imitations of these. These came together in one way or another, and conceived a girl with the ability to mimic appearance and power by simply consuming the blood of the respective person. This theory mentions that Dabi's quirk could be more complex than it seems. When Dabi was first discussed, it was mentioned that he has had a weak constitution since birth thanks to his mother. His body could never handle his blue flames, but after his ordeal at Sokoto Peak, the boy somehow survived. The scientist was not sure how Dabi survived the terrible accident, and All for One believed that Dabi would die 10 months after coming out of his coma because of his physical condition. However, the boy lived for years despite the harsh treatment. Dabi has survived all this time due to a unique quirk that no one else knows about. Many speculate that All for One take care of him for years without knowing it. They speculated that he gave Dabi some kind of healing or restoration ability that allows him to stay alive. At the same time, others think that he is a phoenix quirk, which would explain why he never dies from his own flames, since like the mythical bird, he is reborn from the ashes. As we have already mentioned before, most of the population in the world of My Hero Academy has a quirk, but a small part does not. This generates hundreds of cases, where people who do not possess a quirk are practically discriminated against, and treated as lesser by others. We should look no further than Deku, who was constantly bullied by his classmates just because he didn't have a quirk, and spent his life in a more solitary way. Once someone without a quirk grows up, things get better, as you are not allowed to use your powers unless you have a hero license. However, if we think about real situations, most people would be afraid of those who possess a quirk, because they can end their lives if they wanted to. Besides, some quirks change the physical appearance of people, making them more intimidating. Eri was one of the main characters during the 8 Precepts of Death arc, as she has one of the most powerful quirks seen in the series. She has the power of rewinding, which allows Eri to revert a living individual's body to a previous state, allowing her to heal injuries and undo body modifications. She has even demonstrated the ability to rewind the body of living beings to a point before it existed. This quirk has caused much speculation as to what is possible and what is not. Many theorized that Eri could resurrect dead people, however it was explained that his quirk only applies to living beings, so it was quickly discarded. Another of the most popular theories is the possibility of returning the One for All to All Might, just as he did with Mirio, to whom he returned his powers. Many fans believe that Eri is a character that should not have existed in the series, because it breaks with the logic of the series. She could heal the wounds of the heroes without stopping, no matter how serious they are. As long as they are alive, she could rewind everything, making the possible loss of a character much less dramatic, since there will always be the option of using her quirk. Level 5. The fandom of My Hero Academia is considered one of the most toxic there is. Many mention that the reason for this is largely due to the popularity of the series. It is natural that in all fandoms there will always be toxic people, and there will be people who are not like that, people who are really interested in the series. We saw before how some people threatened the creator of the series for nothing. The real problem of the fandom, according to several of its users, are the shipping wars, because apart from how strange some of them can be, the fans argue and offend those who don't agree with them. This is nothing new, in every series this exists. However, in My Hero Academia, they take it to the next level, to the point where the series has little or nothing to do with it. One of the most popular theories at the time was the identity of Dabi, who was easily linked to the Todoroki family because of his fire quirk, which turned out to be true. Another popular theory of this style is that All for One is actually Izuku Midoriya's father. From the very first episode of the anime, viewers learn that Deku's mother, Inko Midoriya, is raising him alone. His father, Hisashi Midoriya, is working overseas in the United States, and according to Inko, he has an unnamed fire breath quirk. If All for One is really Deku's father, he could easily extract his quirk as a child, and it could have been a very powerful one. It is also strange that Deku's doctor as a child was Dr. Tsubasa, the same assistant as All for One. Another argument is Deku's ability to use the quirks within One for All, this because he is the direct son of All for One, who specializes in using multiple quirks, thus explaining why All Might was not able to awaken all the powers, despite his natural talent. There is also the fact that Deku's father's face has never been shown, and All for One has never been shown completely, and the times his face is shown, it is incomplete. A last possible argument is that Horikoshi has declared to be a fan of Star Wars, so taking into account that plot, it is not impossible that he is preparing something similar within his own story. The Quirk Singularity theory tries to explain how through eugenics among humans with quirks, a being as powerful as a god would lead to destruction. The idea is that the quirks continue to evolve through generations, leading society to a path of destruction caused by themselves. A clear example of this is Shoto Todoroki, who possesses both quirks of his parents, or Deku himself, who has inherited all the quirks of the possessors of the One for All. After all, the singularity of the quirk became real to a certain extent. All for One is a being capable of destroying everything at will, thanks to the multiple quirks he possesses. Despite that, he is not the pinnacle of human evolution in My Hero Academia, because he does not possess all the quirks himself. He needs to steal them from others. That is why it has been theorized that there could be a stronger human, someone born with the potential to master any quirk on his own, thus reaching the true singularity.